Just like that, the Lakers look like they're finally starting to get things right. They've won 6 of their last 7 games headed into All-Star break, and they've got the 5th best record in the West since January 4th. Now, there are a ton of different things to point at to kind of attribute their success to, but for one, I think the biggest thing for them is the reemergence of Anthony Davis as a top 5 level player. It's honestly been one of the most underrated storylines of the entire season. This is the most healthy we've seen him be in a while, and before this season, the most games he's played as a Laker was 62. This year, he's already played in 52 games. And one could argue that this season he's been the Lakers' best player. He's averaging 25 points, 12 rebounds, and also a career best while being with the Lakers, 2.5 blocks. This is the best two-way basketball we've seen him play in a while, and it's almost reminiscent of what we saw from him in that 2020 season. And this is so great for him because his follow-up to that 2020 season was just plagued so much by inconsistency and injuries. During that run, he was arguably a top 3, top 2 player in the game of basketball. But since then, we saw a major fall off, and there were a ton of other guys in the NBA who seemingly kind of took his spot within that top 5. But he's back, healthy, and looking dominant again, and he's set to play in his first All-Star game since 2020. Then there are also the lineups. About a month and a half or so ago, that was the biggest point of concern amongst Lakers fans. Darvin Ham tried a ton of different lineups and situations, and they really didn't seem to work. They really couldn't find any consistency with those. And Ham was getting absolutely killed with that. And of course, as always, Lakers fans were calling for him to get fired or questioning if he was the right guy for the job. And I totally hate that because what I really feel like with this Lakers squad is they forget that this coach, Darvin Ham, helped get them to the Western Conference Finals last season, and they kind of let those struggles make them believe that he wasn't the man for the job. And I really kind of hated that a little bit because he just helped this team get to the Western Conference Finals last season, and I really do feel like the last couple of Lakers coaches really got thrown under the bus way too much. But looking at things now, and the lineup issues have totally subsided. They've decided to go with a starting lineup of Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reaves, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, and when those guys have been on the court together, they have been absolutely dominant. So I've got some numbers for you. On the court together through 10 games and 87 minutes, this group has outscored opponents by 20 points, which is around the best mark out of all the different Lakers lineups this season. And they're also 8-2 when this group plays together and 5-0 with them as starters. And this has totally helped make for a better offensive attack, which generally has been a major issue for the Lakers during the entire LeBron and AD era. This team has never been really good from an offensive standpoint. Even in 2020, they weren't the league's best offensively, but now it looks like they found a lot of consistency. And they're getting great shots. 48% of their looks come at the rim when these guys are playing together. And they're also generating a good amount of corner threes, which generally in the NBA is a high percentage shot. So the offense is flowing with this lineup, and there have also been some really good contributors outside of those 5 guys. There's this addition of Spencer Dinwiddie, who since his 2020 season where he averaged 21 points per game, I really expected him to kind of evolve into an all-star caliber player. But since then, his production from a scoring standpoint has kind of dipped season in and season out. He's never been able to kind of return to that 20 point per game type of range. And I think we've kind of settled on this idea that he's not a real second or third option on a really good team. But since being here in LA, he's been great. He's averaging 8 points, 5.5 assists, and 2 steals in nearly 30 minutes of play. And after Gabe Vincent's injury, there was a little bit of a void that was left as far as having a reliable backup point guard and kind of a second option, secondary playmaker. And so far, he's filling that role perfectly. And it's just really good seeing this Lakers team get back into a stretch of consistency in what's been a really up and down season, even with an in-season tournament victory. And that's the whole thing with this Lakers team. We know they can be really dominant with what they have, but there are too many times we're kind of left wondering when they're going to flip that switch. Perfect example, at the trade deadline, a lot of people were pissed that they didn't make a move. In my opinion, I didn't think they needed to go get anybody. They just had a really productive trade deadline last season to help them get to the Western Conference Finals, and what they did during the offseason was great. Bringing in Gabe Vincent, bringing in Cam Reddish, and a bunch of other guys to help fill out their roster even more. So the talent has been there all season. The personnel has been there all season. They just have to go out there and put it on the floor on a consistent basis. And like I said, through these last couple of weeks, it looks like they're doing just that. So the hope is that they can carry this consistency into the post-All-Star game stretch, which is going to be very important as far as playoff seeding goes. But they're slowly starting to remind us that they are still a championship contending team with the talent that they've already got. And there are also some additional guys that they're waiting to come back on the roster.